Hi, Melissa.
Hi, fellow Kiss fans. That's hard to do. I'm not an actor by any means, but that is hard to do, and I will explain more on my theory about acting in Phantom of the Park after the intro. Welcome, fellow Kiss fans. Welcome to It's All For You Demons, celebrating the fun of being a Kiss fan. I'm about to take these witches for a walk, but when I get back, we're talking the fun of the 1978 Phantom of the Park official magazine and my theory on the acting in that movie and why we never hear about it. Are you ready for a walk, Lee? Let's go. Come on, let's go for walks. Walking time. Ready? No, not sitting time. Walking time. Let's go. First off, my history with this glorious and wonderful book. Around 1999-2000, my friend Dan got this magazine at a convention, and it was our first time ever seeing it, and that was actually my only time ever seeing it. We loved this magazine. If you know anything about me, I am a huge Phantom of the Park fan. Phantom of the Park runs in my DNA. If anyone was to ask me what is my favorite era of Kiss, it's Phantom of the Park. It's anything Magic Mountain, Phantom of the Park, solo albums, Alive 2, that era. Man, just absolutely so much fun. And so is this magazine. And that is what I wanted to share with you today, the fun of this Phantom of the Park magazine. The first thing I actually really love about this book is the fact that the very first time we ever really saw anything about this book was in the solo album merchandise forms. The first mention of this gloriously fun magazine was in the gloriously fun solo albums. And I won't do a complete flip through of the magazine to not spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it and is planning on finding a copy and buying it. I'll just flip through some random pages, but just to show you the fun of this magazine. It is so childlike. It is so 1970s. It is so much fun. Do you remember going to the library with your mom, like in the summer in the 70s or in the early 80s, and checking out those Universal monster books, like about Frankenstein or Dracula or the Wolfman, and how they were written very at a grade school level for young readers? This is how this magazine's written, and it is so much fun to read. I have read this entire magazine except for the interviews. I'm saving that maybe for October when I actually sit down to watch Phantom of the Park again. But this thing is just so much fun. It talks about the plot of the movie. It talks about the talisman. It has fun little blurbs. Like the whole pool scene, they refer to it in the magazine as the Kiss Conclave, and how they look like a bunch of monks sitting around the pool in their robes while Gene stands accused. It was him or his twin. But even fun little sections like this, like autographs, which I was looking at these autographs closely last night, and to me, either these were done very fast or they don't look like actual Kiss autographs. I don't ever recall Gene writing his name that sloppy in 1978, or Paul for that matter. They were always bold, strong lettering, and the S and the E's on that just seem very, very different than normal Gene autographs. And actually, Gene doesn't put a line in his E's, a long line like that. So I'm wondering if maybe somebody who made this magazine or somebody in the Aucoin office forged these autographs and fooled a bunch of Phantom of the Park fans. And there's great candid shots, there's great photos from behind the scenes. This is obviously Ace and Peter filming the intro with a blue screen behind them. Another candid shot of Ace with a mechanical head. The Chamber of Thrills, always a fun scene, and their home where they stayed while solving the disappearance of Sam. This room was actually used in a Columbo episode, and if you watch my video, The Fun of Phantom of the Park, which I'll put a link to at the end of this, I find that Columbo episode, and you can clearly see this fireplace in the background of that Columbo episode. Another cool shot of Ace in the Chamber of Thrills, obviously taking a break from filming, doesn't have his Love Gun armor on. That's pretty cool. Super Songs, Black Diamond. Dr. Love, Love Gun. I Stole Your Love, Rock and Roll Night. I believe it's called Calling Dr. Love. Magazine editors. And these are the interviews I have not read and am saving for another viewing of Phantom of the Park. I watched Phantom of the Park on VHS last night, the TV version, and read this magazine from front to back, saving these interviews for the next time I watch it, maybe in the fall. I like to have Phantom of the Park nights, and man, this magazine is just too much fun. And of course, it wouldn't be a Kiss magazine without a merchandise form, which is included in this magazine and is a blast to look through. And if this magazine is sold out at your newsstand, you can order additional copies for only $2.50. It's the same price as the solo album form, so no one's ripping you off. Order your copy today. And this is a good example of that young reader type writing for this magazine. When the Star Talisman is at work, Star Child can read minds, remember everything, and immobilize his enemies with a beam of light from his black starred eye. Now, I don't really recall Paul remembering everything in this movie. I guess he knew Melissa's name before she told her name, but I mean, that's the kind of magic that's in this book, is just that young reader, children's library type writing. It's so much fun to read because you kind of turn into a 9-year-old kid reading this magazine, which I'm sure a lot of you were 9-year-old kids reading this magazine back then. And I enjoyed reliving that magic through the pages of this book. So stoked to have this in my collection. Like I mentioned earlier, I had not seen this magazine since about 1999 when Dan had it. Dan lost his copy over the years, and I was able to finally score a copy. It's been a long time, been looking for this, and finally glad to put it on the shelf. Here's my theory on Phantom of the Park and the band. Like early last year when Eddie Trunk was really bashing Kiss, he would talk non-stop that Kiss won't do his show, and it's because of Paul. And he would continually say, if you've never realized it, who runs Kiss is Paul Stanley. So using that theory, here's why I think the band shuns this movie. Watching Phantom of the Park last night, if you watch it tonight, let me know your thoughts. The worst actor in this movie is Paul. It's horrible. Gene's pretty good. Gene's really good. Ace is pretty good. Peter, even though that's not his voice, is pretty good. Paul is absolutely horrible. Every line, it sounds like he's reading from a book he's never seen. Hi, Melissa. Let's go! Ahoy, mates. The ownership approaches. It's like he read every line, not knowing the context. And I know he says in Extreme Close-Up that he didn't even know how the movie ended, and it's almost like they were just handed pages of script and they had to say line. Well, in the acting world, I'm not an actor, but I know enough that in the acting world, if you don't know your line, that's when you say line. It almost seemed like Gene, I'm sure Gene was really into this movie, especially with his love of like old horror movies and old sci-fi. I bet Gene loved this, and it seemed like Paul was the one that was like a fish out of water. And he almost seemed completely nervous. Like every scene he speaks dialogue, besides like the concert scenes, every scene that he speaks dialogue seems like he's nervous. And I think he's so embarrassed of this movie, that is why you never see the band talk about Phantom of the Park. I remember in the 90s, Dan and myself always heard a rumor that if you worked for Kiss in the inner circle or you were like a road crew member, if you ever brought up Phantom of the Park in the 80s or 90s, you were immediately fired. And I can totally see Paul Stanley doing that. I can totally see, like, anyone fucking talks about that movie, they're gone. Because I think he is embarrassed because he's the worst actor in the movie. Let me know your comments. Rewatch Phantom of the Park tonight, either version, Attack of the Phantoms or television version, preferably television, but watch it again tonight and leave me your comments. Let me know, who do you think is the worst actor in this movie? You can't say all of them, you can't say all of them, the movie sucks, it's horrible. Let me know, honestly, who do you think, Gene, Paul, Ace, or Peter, who is the worst actor? Leave those comments down in the comment section. Let's celebrate the fun of being a Kiss fan down in those comments. Thank you for hanging with me today. Thank you for waxing the Phantom of the Park magazine. Take care, be safe, be good to your animals. I will talk to you soon.